Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Redeem Her Time podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how you can add a team member that you may not be expecting, how a book can actually become your best employee and not only save you time, but also compress time in bringing in leads. And I've asked one of my friends and clients, Carolyn Wiley, to come and join us today because she is the girl. Whether you already have a book on your heart and you know you need to write it, or maybe you don't even realize what a book could do for you, this conversation, I think, is going to really encourage you and inspire you and hopefully get you writing and get some support in the process. So, Carolyn, welcome to the Redeem Her Time podcast. You and I get to hang out in CEO land, which I love. I love getting to see the back end of what you're doing and why you're doing. But let's assume someone listening today doesn't know who you are. Start off a little bit about you. Like, what are you juggling? What's your time going to in this season of life? And then we'll jump into the work you do.
So right now, Rose and Pearl Publishing, which I'm the founder and CEO, are juggling about 10 brand new books that will be coming out before July 1st.
Wow.
And we are thrilled to be helping all of these authors go from I have an idea to a finished, polished manuscript book out in the world in the hands of the readers who it will truly be transformative in their lives and in a way that grows that author's impact, legacy, revenue for their business and for their ministries.
Yeah, right. What a powerful thing that we can have. And yet it can feel very daunting to those of us who might not consider ourselves writers. So I want to hear a little bit about your journey. Have you been writing
Yes.
since the womb? Was it something that came into your world later on in life? How many books have you written? I would love to hear that and just kind of what's that journey been like for you so that we can hear a little bit more about how you came to the place of helping, business owners, CEOs write their book.
Absolutely. So I wrote my very first book back when I was 11 years old. And I actually have it. I keep it over in near my desk. Just a cute little like pamphlet that I made where I wrote poems and essays about my grandparents and gifted it to them for Christmas.
Oh,
And then I
sweet.
was on the school newspaper. I went to Harvard for a semester and I had the option of taking two classes, and I took calculus and autobiography. So even then, I was like writing, and especially memoir was something that was deeply on my heart. God had just been building that in me. Then, when I was in my mid 20s, I was an instructor in mathematics, actually, at a university. And we weren't happy with the statistics curriculum. We thought, we don't really like what's out there. So, myself and two co authors, two instructor friends of mine, decided that we were going to write a textbook. And actually, that's not even how we started off. We were like, we're going to write the curriculum. And then we're like, this is a textbook. And so we actually talked to a publisher and they're like, yes, we would love to make this one of our textbooks. And it just took off. And we are literally working on writing our fourth edition right now of this book that has sold worldwide millions of copies. It has just been incredible. And then I have written other books, some devotionals, memoirs, and then helping leaders publish their books. So we have an entire catalog at roseandpearl.net that you can go and check out and find your next favorite read.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always looking for a good read. And if I can support another, a believer or someone else who's doing work that God has called them to, I'm always about that. But I can only imagine, yeah, what a textbook would be like to write, and a math one at that, where
Right.
it's not just words. It involves a whole lot of other things. And then also all the things you're doing over here is so beautiful. So let's talk about this. You say that so many entrepreneurs know they should be writing a book, but I think they probably are hesitating because
Yes.
honestly, if we're honest, ready, you guys, it's going to take a lot of time. Like,
Right.
how many of you have been like, I would, but I don't have time? I mean, of course, we address that issue here on the Redeem Her Time podcast and inside the CEO programs, but what is that? Yeah, is there some truth to that reality of like, yeah, it is going to take a lot of time? And if so, like, how do we maybe kind of get past that with if there's a value on the other side of it? I think we make time for what we value, right? And
Exactly.
what we know will move us forward.
Exactly. And that's the bottom line. We make time for what we value. So
Yeah.
if you have this inkling that you're wanting to write a book, or you see other CEOs writing books and you see how it's moving their business forward, and so you think, yeah, I need to do that. But the value, that ROI, is not super, super clear to you, it's going to simply become a project that's on your nice to have one day list
Right.
instead of a strategic business asset that you put on the top of your list. Like
Ooh.
you didn't put off building a lead gen. You didn't put off creating your offer. You didn't put off selling your offer. Because if you did, you wouldn't have a business.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we put off this strategic asset because we see it as a maybe it'll be nice to have one day. And the truth is that the CEOs who have that book made the very conscious decision that they weren't going to put it off any longer, that it really was going to be something that moved their business forward, opening doors to bigger stages and opportunities. And what I have seen with coaches that come into the program, it literally happened because someone told them no because they didn't have a book.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see how it would open doors. So often, depending on what kinds of stages you're trying to get on or platforms, they are looking for those credibility markers, and this could be that. And what I'm also thinking too, like this is for a season, right? This isn't
Yes,
forever. And then what you're telling us is, there is a long term ness to that investment, that ROTI,
that's
that
right.
return on time invested. Now, it may not be in the royalties so much so as it is probably in the authority and the
Right. And
opportunities
we'll
that come
talk
out of
about
it.
that too, for
Okay.
sure. And one of the things that I see is sometimes the CEO will say, you know what, I do want to write that book. And so they'll get started. They'll open up the notes app or they'll start making notes and they kind of spin their wheels for a few months. And
Okay.
then it feels like a never ending project instead of a time locked project. Because as
Oh,
CEOs, we know that if I have a project that's going to take me 6 months, I'm going to just lock in, I'm going to make that plan, and I'm going to get it done.
yeah.
But if it's a project that just doesn't ever seem to be getting any traction, then it becomes the last thing we want to do and it becomes the end of our priority list. And so that's where having the right strategic help to make sure it doesn't keep you in this spinning process. And usually there's just a few very simple tweaks that will move you from I've been writing this book for 25 years to now here I've been in your program 12 weeks and it's already done, which I literally have an author tell me last week. So that's the difference between just having that strategic eyes on your project with you instead of you trying to muddle through by yourself.
Yeah. Because I can see how we would tend to avoid something that feels really overwhelming or hard. And I
Exactly.
think for so many of us, sometimes it's just taking that first step and getting the ball rolling. Have you ever had
Right.
like a project outside of a book, right? Where like I need to clean out this closet, or for me, it's like sometimes like, oh, I need to go in and clean up this digital file or something like that, and I put it off because it feels like it's going to take so much time. And then once you actually get in there and the ball gets rolling, oftentimes, especially if you have guidance, ends up taking less time than you thought or being a whole
Exactly.
lot easier and felt really good to get going. And then that momentum, builds on itself. So what are some of the, maybe common misconceptions about book writing as a business strategy? So I don't know if everybody's looked at that. I love that you said this is a strategic asset for your
Yes.
business. So are there some common misconceptions or just things that people don't know? And what does it then cost us in time, in leads, even in credibility if we put off writing that book and getting it out in the world?
That's such a good question. And I would say you've already kind of hinted at one of the biggest misconceptions, which is that the return on the investment will come in book sales. Obviously, we want there to be book sales because if people don't have the book in their hands, then they're not going to have the transformation. They're not going to have the knowledge of how to come to you to make that transformation go further and deeper. However, books don't bring in a lot of money. Books are an extremely low ticket item. And usually, by the time you print them and ship them, the amount that your business pockets per book is not a lot, but it's some, it's a couple bucks.
Sure.
But what you really see is if I sell 20 books, and so I make 40 bucks, but one of those brought me a $5,000 client, which I've seen happen. I've seen one of my clients literally within the first month of her book being out, she booked a speaking gig as a keynote that paid for the whole program. Like that right there is what makes the difference. That's where you're going to see the return
Yeah.
on the high value speaking opportunities that come your way now, on the high ticket clients that come to your world because they now know you're the one who gets them. You're the one who actually has the transformation at their fingertips that they can walk through. That's when you start seeing the true ROI. And so when you think about putting this time in order to get back all of the lead gen, all of the money that you're going to be recouping in terms of sales and speaking opportunities, it really becomes a no-brainer. Yes, writing the book is the hard part, but it's for a season and then it's done and it just operates. And how many of us are still reading Atomic Habits that came out,
Right.
many years ago? Like, it lives on. It's not those 5-minute posts on Facebook that are gone before you've almost even posted them.
Yeah.
A book truly is a long-term asset.
Okay, I love the word. I was actually going to pull this out. I love the fact that you're using that word asset because I think so often we look at things as expenses. It's going to cost me time. It's going to cost me money. Yes, it is. But when something is an asset, there is an ongoing return on that.
That's right.
Which is always going to be multiple times whatever the cost was upfront in time, in money, in stress, maybe.
Exactly.
Frustration, things like that along the way. And so I love that you keep bringing us back there. Like, this is something that's going to keep producing over time, unlike the whole social thing. And maybe right there, for somebody who feels like, I don't know if I have time to write a book, maybe that is one place to go, is how much time are you currently spending creating content that is alive for like 24 hours?
Exactly.
What if you just redirected that time, right? Or even just scrolling on our phone. We know the average person spends 4 hours and 37
Right.
minutes a day on their phone. And, as business owners, I'm sure some of that is productive and helpful and good. But even just, a fraction of that, if that went towards writing a book, what you'd have to show for it versus, I don't even know what I did all day with 4 hours and 37
Right.
minutes.
And when I break down the time commitment of what it actually takes to get from I have an idea to I have the full book written in 12 weeks, people look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, that's all it's going to take?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you give me 30 minutes a day? Can you give up a Netflix sitcom episode every day? Oh, you can? Okay, well, then we can get this done.
Yeah.
Like, it really is that simple. And I break down the math because I'm the math girly, of course. So I break down the math for them. And when they see that, they're like, okay, well, I can't even argue with that because it really is
Right.
that simple.
Who doesn't have that kind of time, especially if it's got that kind of result? So what do you see when people do try and maybe go off on their own? What are some common mistakes that writers or wannabe writers, because maybe they don't say I'm a writer yet, make that maybe will cost them more time or cost them more, right, frustration and things like that, even though they've already
So
started a process?
the first and biggest one is, and I've said it, when you want to write a book, the first thing you need to do is just write. And while I still agree with that, I think there's something that really actually comes before that, which is you need clarity around what are you writing? And I know that sounds stupid. Like, well, of course I would need to know what I'm writing before I start writing. But honestly, everybody that comes into the program, they think they have clarity around what they're writing until I start actually asking them questions. And then they realize, okay, I don't.
Yeah.
For example, if you think that you're writing a book for everyone because you want as many people as possible to buy it, you're actually not going to connect with anyone. And then therefore, no one is going to be interested in buying it. And so we need to get super narrowed in and focused on who is this book for? What is it that we want this book to do? And what is the transformation that this book will actually bring about in the heart and mind of the reader?
Yes.
Then we start writing.
Yeah. And showing up from that place where you have that vision of, like, I like to say, I remember when I was working on my journal, this is my quote version of a book right now. I remember my coach who helped me with it. She helps people do journals and planners and stuff like that. So when we were working on the planner, she said, envision yourself handing that finished copy to your best fit person, right? What are you going to say? What's that going to feel like? What are they going to experience as they start opening the pages? And so I love that, where you're getting them into the who, the what, really the why behind it before they even start writing it, so that it is always, that's our check, right? Is this moving me in this direction, or is this taking me away from that? Yeah. Any other mistakes you wanted to hit on? I want to make sure that I didn't cut you off if there was something else.
No, I think that's the really the main thing. They start writing,
Sure.
and because they don't have that clarity, they start that spin cycle where they write something and it doesn't go anywhere, and so then they rewrite it and it doesn't go anywhere. And then pretty soon, after several months of this, they decide, well, I'm not a writer. That's why this is not moving forward.
Yeah.
And the truth is, no, you never got clarity. That's why you're not moving
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. Do you find that people sometimes get too stuck in that loop? I mean, overthinking anonymous, right? I mean, talk about opportunity to really just kind of spin in those cycles. So I can see on the one side, start writing without clarity. That's gonna, take you in no direction. But if you also then are just spinning in the circles of, I have to have it all figured out before I actually do anything, can that lead people the other direction of wasting time where they're actually not actually starting to move this thing forward?
It absolutely can. I have literally seen both. And that's where we go with what I've heard you say numerous times. CEOs make decisions quickly and they change from them slowly.
Right.
Make a decision. If you figure out on chapter 5 that it was the wrong decision, we can edit that out. But if you don't make a decision, we can't edit a blank page.
Sure. Yeah.
So we make the decision. We
Yeah.
make it firmly, we make it quickly, and then we act. And
Sure.
then we can change course later. Honestly, very seldom do we ever change course,
Right.
but we have to make that decision.
Sure. And sometimes that clarity comes as you're going, and then you figure out
Exactly.
some little nuance of it or a little different direction, or
Exactly.
it confirms that this was indeed the way we want to go. So I love this. Okay. So we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste money. We don't want to be spinning in circles and things like that. We want to be good stewards who are faithful and fruitful with what God has entrusted to us. So you have this concept of the arise method and your
Yes,
pen, publish, promote framework. Are you willing to break down a little bit how these systems help
I would love
Christian
to.
leaders? Like, how does this help us actually take this message? It's probably like, maybe it's not even written anywhere. Like, I think when you think about a message, it's like in your heart, it's in your head. It's a whole other thing to get it down on paper where somebody else who you are not sitting in front of could actually understand this. So, yeah, how do these systems help us to do that without either getting discouraged along the way or burning out because we're pushing ourselves in ways that we probably shouldn't?
Absolutely. And because writing a book truly is a big project, like we can't ignore the fact this is a big project and it will take time. It won't
Sure.
take the amount of time you may be thinking it will, but it is a major commitment and it will take a lot of time. So I've broken the process down into 3 pieces and then further under those umbrellas into 5 pieces so that everybody can really see the process as a whole. And then you can join a single piece of the process at any point. So you have an idea, but you don't have a manuscript written. You would come into pen. We're literally going to write, pen the book.
Pen to paper. Yep, let's do
Right?
this.
And so that's the A and the R of the arise method. We're going to identify the assignment. We're going to get super clear. And then we're going to write the rough draft. And in the rough draft, we write WRITE, and that's a whole nother framework that I have of how you actually write that rough draft. Once we have the rough draft, we then have to polish it. So then that's when you would move into the publish program. And if you come to me and you already have a full manuscript that you've written, you can just start there in that publish piece. That's where we're going to focus on the I and the S of the arise method. So we're going to improve, that's through editing back and forth with professional editors, and then showcase. We're going to format the interior. We're going to get an amazing, beautiful cover that will stop a scroll so that people go, hey, wait, I got to look at this further. And we're really going to make sure that your ideal reader knows that this book exists and is super interested in it when they see it. Then the last piece is promote, because you can have the best book in the world, but if nobody knows that this book exists, it's not going to do anything. And so then that's the last piece of arise, the E, exposure. You've got to have exposure, or the book's going to sit on Amazon shelf with 4 million other books and not do anything. And so that is literally an entire program in and of itself, because we want to make sure that people can find your book and have the transformation that you've spent all of this time creating and developing for them.
Yeah, I love this because you've just broken it down into like doable phases, is kind of how I'm hearing it,
Hmm.
which makes me not feel when it's time just to write the book that I have to be worrying about how I'm going to promote it.
Exactly.
But I think so often
Exactly.
that's what we do. We throw it all in the same bucket and our brain is thinking about what we're writing. At the same time, it's thinking about, is anybody going to buy it on Amazon and how are people going to
Hmm.
find it? And then that's going to impact, obviously, what we're doing at that stage.
Hmm.
So, and then I'm also thinking too, we may have listeners today who either already have written something or have already gotten to a point of publishing it, whether it's self-published or, with someone and need that promote part. And I could see this
Exactly.
being a cycle that people will like. What do you find it is about like repeat offenders, I like to call it? So like once someone's written a book, what are the chances? Is there a percentage, since you're a numbers person, of how many people go on to write a second book?
This will sound crazy, but every single one of my authors who's finished their first book has come back and said, I'm ready to write a second. And
Wow.
of those, probably only half went in thinking they were going to write a second.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
every one of them have been back like, okay, when are we writing book two? And literally some that I really thought they weren't going to because they flat told me when they started. Now, Carolyn, this is
this
a
is
one and
it.
done. I'm not an author. I'm like, okay, you don't have to be an author. And
Right.
we get the first book out there. Okay, so I'm going to send you information about a second book. I'm like, I thought so.
Uh-huh. Thought so. They drink the Kool-Aid. They're a little bit hooked now, right? I love that. I love that. And I could see then how, as you're growing, I mean, this is what entrepreneurship is, right? It's,
Yes.
it's this, we're growing in the process and your message is always, growing as well. So probably by the time you finish the first book, you're ready for the second one because the Lord's been doing some things, in your heart
Yes.
or through your experiences and things like that, yeah.
And I love that you say that because I tell my authors all the time, the process of writing the book, God will bring you the resources and the words that you need to write the book. But that process is as much about Him creating in you the author who can carry that message as it is Him producing this work. And so they are always amazed at the amount of mindset shifts and identity shifts that happen during the process of creating that first book. So then when they go into the second book, those mindset shifts are often already there, especially if they're writing one that's a continuation of the same message instead of something brand new, because they've done that work already. They understand that. And then the practical side of, I now know exactly what it's like to write a book.
Mm.
So I'm not as scared of the process anymore. It's really clear in my head what's going to happen when and exactly what the time commitment's going to be and if now is the right season for it. And so it just makes it easier to say yes to the next one.
I used to always tell that to brand new teachers when I was in teaching, get through the first year. Just you're probably going to be just one day ahead of your students. That's okay. Figure out what does a year feel like. And then when you go to year two, you're like, oh, I actually know what this thing looks like. I kind of
Yeah.
have an idea of how long things take and what times of the year, there are different needs or struggles or things like that coming up. So yeah, it's always easier on that second round.
Yeah.
All right, so we always like to tie things back to time, right? And we're
Yes.
not here just to manage time, keep it from getting away, but so of course we don't want this to be a drain on our time because we
Hmm.
do have other things in our business to run. I mean, I'm sure somebody could push pause on everything else while they write their book, but I'm guessing if they're actively coaching or speaking or things like that, they're probably still running a business and doing
Right.
this. So how do we not only do it in a way that saves us time and instead of draining us time, and it also now starts moving into how we can multiply time, how we can really see some good roadie come out.
Absolutely. And I do tell everybody that this book is an asset that actually is a time multiplier, like you said,
Mm.
and not a time drain. Because right now, as a coach, as a service provider, you're writing content, you're serving clients, you're creating frameworks, you're creating curriculum, maybe you're recording trainings, you're doing a lot of work.
Mm.
And often that work can start feeling very scattered. Whereas when you start writing the book, it clarifies all of that. You are forced to organize it. And so then it saves you time because now you're clarifying your frameworks. You may have thought they were clear before, but when you sit down to write it, you'll find out if they really are or not. And that just saves time because the clearer your frameworks are, the easier it's going to be to execute on trainings, the better your coaching becomes. And then you have built-in content because every chapter, every piece becomes built-in content. You literally can be like, I don't know what to do today. Let me open the book. That's what I'm doing today. And so it saves you time trying to figure out what content you're going to talk about today.
Hmm.
And then my favorite part is that your book becomes a salesperson who pays you to work for you because it's out there changing hearts and minds while bringing you in revenue and clients.
Yeah, and who doesn't want something that's out there working for us? Yeah, what a beautiful
Exactly.
combination. And I'm thinking too, probably for someone listening today who feels overwhelmed by this, or I don't know if I could do this, I love the fact that you pointed out we're probably already creating content anyway, whether it's in a podcast form or a blog form or social media content or even emails that have value. You probably already have a whole lot of stuff already. Like, what if this was a
Exactly.
way to, like you said, kind of bring it together, get it even more clear, and start making it more cohesive, and then you have something to pull from. That sounds like a wise return on time invested.
Right?
So let's kind of just connect the dots, right? How does leveraging a book in the way that we've talked about today, not only how does it affect our time, but how does it affect our roadie as we build this really powerful asset that we've been talking about today?
So the book's going to collapse your time because you're going to spend months creating it, but then it's going to work for you for years
Yeah.
versus the social media posts like we talked about that you may spend 10, 20 minutes creating and then it works for you for about 24 hours.
Yeah.
It really expands that. It's going to increase your roadie because it's going to be one asset that fuels everything else, your content, your leads, your sales, your speaking. It's going to shorten your sales cycle. Because if someone's read your book,
Mhm.
they're going to come to the sales conversation.
Yeah.
And I've had these conversations and they are incredible where the person's like, okay, Carolyn, I don't want you to talk anymore. Like, just give me the link. Like I know when I came into Impact because I had heard so much of you listening to your podcast. I'd experienced your coaching. I was just like, Lisa, just send me the link. I just need to sign up. Like, I don't need information. I don't need a sales call. I just need to pay you money. That is what a book can do because it gives them all of that information of who you are, what you stand for, what your frameworks are, what mindset shifts you can help walk them through up front so that they don't have those questions when they come to you and are ready for that next step. And it lets you be fully present while you're off the clock because it's working for you, training for you, teaching for you, just like a podcast does, or just like YouTube videos will, but in longer and more intimate form. Because a book has a level of intimacy that we just ingest it and it goes so much deeper than a video or a podcast. We highlight it, we bookmark it, we go back to it, we read it again and again. And so for someone who's reading your book that way, they're going to be bought in a way that other clients won't be.
Sure. They're going to be way more engaged than I just scrolled
Hmm.
past something and happened to catch a few words or
Exactly.
lines or something like that. So, yeah. I love this. Obviously, it is a good use of time. It will be a cost of time. So we have
Yep.
to understand it up front, but when we understand the value on the other side of it, we can make time for things that have value. So I would love for you as we kind of wind this up to speak to two different listeners. Maybe
Yes.
they need to hear something similar, maybe they need to hear something different, but I'm thinking like there's someone listening today who is very hesitant or overwhelmed, even still after this conversation, by the idea of writing. What would you say to her? And then maybe what would you say to that person who already is like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I know this is going to be a commitment, but like I'm seeing the value and I'm ready to go. What encouragement would you give to each of them?
So for someone who's hesitant, I would say you're probably hesitating for one of two reasons. One, you are looking at the time commitment, and just know that you don't need more time. You have time. It's a matter of deciding if this is something you want to prioritize right now and if it makes sense for your business. And to be honest, I haven't found a business that it doesn't make sense for. And then the clarity that you're waiting for, which is usually the other hang up, actually comes when you start the process, when you actually begin the writing, not before. So let's get started and then we'll build that clarity instead of waiting for that clarity. Because, like you pointed out, that can keep you delaying as well.
Right, right, right.
And for the one who says, I'm ready, then your message is there. You need structure and guidance so that you aren't spending 5 years trying to get your book out into the world, you're spending 12 months. And that's one of the benefits of going with a boutique publisher or working with a writing coach who can guide you to the right professionals to get the book done as a business owner, is you're not waiting for a gatekeeper of a traditional publisher to tell you it's time.
Yeah.
Traditional publishing is wonderful. I literally have a traditional publishing deal. That's what we were talking about with my textbook. But there's as many benefits for a business owner to find the right professionals, be your own general contractor, and write the book and publish it well to begin with. You can shorten the time commitment because traditional publishing can take 3 times as long. And you get more of the back end royalties when you do it yourself as well.
And who knows, if you do want that traditional contract, maybe this is what will be what opens the door because you've built some
Exactly.
credibility
Exactly.
in your ability to write a book. So I love this. So inspiring. I'm encouraged and curious as well. So what would be a good next step for someone who's listening today who wants to start, thinking about, okay, what would a book look like? Where would you send her next?
Okay, so at the end of every one of my coaching calls, I ask each client on the call, what's your next right step? WRITE. What's your next right step? And for anyone out there who doesn't know what their next right step would be towards writing their book, I have a free gift for you, which is a private podcast that comes with an entire workbook called The Right Start. It walks you through my framework. It tells you exactly the steps that you need to get started. And so you can go to roseandpearl.net/get started, and you can get all of the information you need and actually start making movement so that the process is demystified. And then when you're ready to say, okay, I need a strategist to come alongside me, help point me to the right professionals, help walk me through the steps, then it gives you all the information you need to take that next step with me at that point as well.
Fantastic. Well, we will make sure we link that in the show notes. So be sure to go and grab that. Even if you're not sure that you want to write a book, this may be exactly what helps you see that idea is probably right there percolating already. And you just need a little nudge to get it out. Yeah. Okay. So you've mentioned Rose and Pearl. Roseandpearl.net is the website, right?
Yep.
And you also have a podcast. So what is that and where can people find that?
I do. It's The Published Pearl, and it's on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. And one of our recent episodes features the very own Miss Lissa Figgins. And so if one of your main concerns is I don't have time to write a book, come and let her tell you all about that on The Published Pearl. And so just at The Published Pearl on any of those podcast services, and you'll find us. And we talk about specifically CEOs writing their book.
I love this. I love this. Well, so good. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to get to share with your audience as well. And as my audience knows, and we always take the conversation off the podcast into the community, the Redeem Her Time community, where we can keep talking about things. And I love that Carolyn is already a regular insider. And so I would love to, put that question out there. What is your next right step? RITE. And come in and share that with us. Maybe it's just that you're going to do some praying over this decision. Maybe you are going to do some exploring. Maybe you're going to download Carolyn's free audio resource. Like what is the next thing you're going to do? So this isn't just a great idea that you heard on a random Tuesday or whatever day of the week it is, but actually something that you're taking action on if the Lord is pushing you in that direction. So if you're not a member yet, redeemhertime.com/community. If you are a member, just redeemhertime.com/member, and Carolyn and I will see you over there. Well, thanks so much, Carolyn. I always love getting to hang out with you, and I love hearing more about what you're doing and how you're helping people to get a good roadie. So let me turn the question around and ask you that, right? Like as you think about, we're about to head into the month of May, and then of course summer and all of that, so what is it time for, either in your life or business? And why do you want to see a good roadie from that time?
So right now in my life, we have a crazy busy household. I have 2 college students. We just got the amazing news yesterday that my oldest bonus daughter was accepted into nursing school, so she's about to start that journey. We also have an 8-year-old and one who's about to be a senior in high school. We are crazy busy over here in the Wiley family. And so being able to do things that allow me to be fully present with them is so important. And of course, we've got tons of books coming out my one that I'm secretly the most excited about because of my 8-year-old is one that she's actually beta reading for us, which is a middle grade series called the Juniper Creek series that's coming out. Think Anne of Green Gables meets Sweet Valley High.
Oh,
It's
fun.
just going to be so precious.
So fun. So fun. Well, you can't get that time back, especially with your kids. So enjoy each season. And I love the fact that you're making time for them outside of the work you do because that always, always matters. So, all right. Well, thank you, Carolyn, so much for blessing us today, encouraging us to go in a direction that maybe we haven't considered before or thought it was going to take so much time. I'm excited to see what books come out of even just this one episode. So if you're listening and you're inspired, make sure you grab her free gift and come join us in the community. And if you know another business owner or coach or content creator, someone who you're like, hey, let's do this together. I mean, I think that would be really fun to find somebody, a book buddy. Oftentimes we read books with somebody, but what if somebody else is writing a book too? And that could be a really fun way to keep you going when the journey feels long, right?
Right.
So share this episode out with them, and we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.